I sat in the HR office at TechVantage Solutions, my hands trembling as Jessica slid a printed statement across the desk. Read this statement to your team, word for word. We're letting you go. Effective immediately. I scanned the corporate jargon about restructuring and eliminating my position. But something was missing. No mention of the access codes I still controlled. I picked up a pen and added one handwritten line at the bottom. That single sentence would change everything. The conference room felt smaller than usual as my team of 12 filed in. Their faces showed confusion mixed with concern. They knew something was wrong. I had built the operations department from nothing over 6 years, transforming TechVantage from a struggling startup into a profitable software company managing $80 million in annual contracts. These people trusted me. Jessica stood near the back wall, her arms crossed, watching me like a hawk. I held the paper in my hands and began reading the prepared statement. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. Organizational changes, new strategic direction, restructuring for future growth. The usual corporate euphemisms for "we're throwing you away." My voice stayed steady, even as I watched the shock register on their faces. Lauren, my assistant for 4 years, gripped the edge of the table. Jake, the junior developer who helped me build our client management system from scratch, looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. I reached the end of the prepared script. Then I read the line I had added in my own handwriting. Effective at 5 p.m. today, all administrative access codes under my authority will be transferred per standard protocol, including the master override system. The room went dead silent. Lauren's eyes widened. She knew exactly what I was talking about. Jake's head snapped up, his expression shifting from grief to understanding. The master override system was something only 3 people in the entire company knew existed. Me, Jake, and our former CTO who had retired 8 months ago. Jessica's face drained of color. She pulled out her phone and rushed from the room, her heels clicking rapidly down the hallway. My team erupted in questions. What's happening? Why are they doing this? What about our projects? I raised my hand gently. I can't say much right now, but I need you all to remember that proper protocol matters. Documentation matters. Following the correct procedures matters. Some of them nodded, confused but trying to understand the subtext. 10 minutes later, Jessica returned with Brandon, our chief operating officer. His face was flushed red, his jaw clenched tight. He pointed at me. "Dorothy, my office. Now." I followed him down the hallway, past the cubicles where I had spent countless late nights building something I was proud of. Brandon's office was all glass walls and expensive furniture, designed to intimidate. He shut the door hard enough that it rattled in its frame. "What the hell was that?" he demanded. I sat down calmly. "What was what?" "That line you added. The master override system. You can't just announce that in front of everyone." I tilted my head. The termination script said to inform my team about the transition. I informed them. I'm following proper protocol for transferring administrative access. It requires full documentation, approval from IT security, and an audit trail. That takes 48 hours minimum. Brandon leaned forward, his hands flat on the desk. "You hand over those codes right now." "I can't do that. Security protocol requires the proper procedure. If I just hand them over without documentation, it creates a vulnerability. Surely you understand that." His eyes narrowed. "I could have security escort you out of this building in 5 minutes. I met his gaze steadily. "You could. But if I'm forced out without completing the proper transfer, the system will automatically lock down in 72 hours. It's a security failsafe I programmed 3 years ago during the ransomware scare. Remember that? When everyone was panicking about hackers? I built in protections. The color drained from Brandon's face. He had forgotten about that. Most of the executives had forgotten about a lot of the infrastructure I had built. They just knew things worked. "You're bluffing," he said, but his voice had lost its edge. "Am I?" "The documentation is all filed with IT. Check with your security team. I followed every protocol when I built that system. I made sure everything was properly documented and approved. That's what good operations management looks like." Brandon stared at me for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone. "Get Tyler in here. Now." I waited, my heart pounding but my expression calm. I had learned a long time ago that showing fear only makes predators more aggressive. Brandon paced behind his desk, not looking at me. The tension stretched like a rubber band about to snap. 5 minutes later, Tyler walked in. Our chief financial officer was normally smooth and polished, but right now he looked annoyed at being pulled from whatever he had been doing. "What's so urgent?" Brandon gestured at me. "She has override access to something called the master system and won't hand it over." Tyler's annoyed expression flickered for just a second. Then it smoothed back into professional neutrality. "I'm sure we can work this out reasonably." But I had seen that flicker. Tyler knew more than he was letting on. My instincts, honed over years of managing complex operations, started screaming that something was very wrong here. I went home that night with my job still technically intact until the transfer was complete. Tom, my husband, listened to the whole story while we sat at our kitchen table. Our 2 kids were already asleep upstairs. He reached across and squeezed my hand. "That was brilliant," he said. "But what happens next?" "I don't know. Something feels off about all of this. The firing was so sudden. No warning, no performance issues, nothing." The next morning, I arrived at the office at 7:30, like always. My access badge still worked. I went to my office and began the careful process of documenting every system, every password, every access point. If they wanted a proper transfer, they would get the most thorough documentation in corporate history. At 8:45, my desk phone rang. It was Brandon's assistant. "Mr. Tyler and Mr. Brandon need to see you immediately. Conference room B." I saved my work and walked to the conference room. Through the glass walls, I could see Tyler sitting at the head of the table, his laptop open in front of him. Brandon paced near the windows. Jessica from HR sat in the corner with a legal pad. And next to her sat Angela, our general counsel. This was serious. I walked in and sat down. "Good morning." Tyler turned his laptop toward me. The screen showed our operations dashboard, the one I had designed to give executives a real-time view of our business. "Can you explain what exactly you have access to?" I looked at the screen. All of that. Client database, billing system, automated payment processing, contract management, revenue tracking, everything that makes this company run. Tyler's jaw tightened. "And this master override system? It's an administrative backdoor I built into the infrastructure. If any part of the system is compromised or needs emergency maintenance, someone with proper authority can access and control everything from one secure location. It's a safety feature." "Who else has this access?" Brandon demanded. "Jake has secondary access, but it requires my authorization code to activate. Our former CTO had access before he retired. That's it." Tyler stared at the dashboard for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "Who gave her the kill switch?" I felt a chill run down my spine. That was an interesting way to phrase it. Not who authorized this or who approved this, who gave her the kill switch, like I had a weapon they hadn't known about. I built the system, I said carefully. I have the access because I'm the one who created it and maintains it. It was all documented and approved through proper channels. Angela, the lawyer, spoke up for the first time. I've reviewed the documentation. Everything Dorothy did was properly authorized and follows industry standard practices. This isn't unusual for someone in her position. Tyler's expression darkened. Nevertheless, we need to expedite this transfer. How quickly can it be done? 48 hours minimum. That's the security protocol. Make it 24. I can't. The IT security team needs to verify everything, create new credentials, update all the audit logs. Rushing it would create vulnerabilities. Tyler stood abruptly. Figure it out. This meeting is over. As everyone filed out, Angela lingered. She caught my eye and gave me the briefest nod. Something in that gesture told me I wasn't completely alone. I returned to my office and continued documenting. Around 11 a.m., my computer suddenly felt sluggish. Programs were running in the background. Someone was accessing my system remotely. I opened the task manager and saw processes I didn't recognize. Someone was searching my files. My phone buzzed. An email from an unknown address with heavy encryption. The subject line was blank. I almost deleted it as spam, but something made me open it. Inside was a compressed file. I extracted it onto a secure thumb drive, not my work computer. The file contained spreadsheets, emails, and documents. As I scrolled through them, my blood ran cold. Revenue reports showing inflated numbers. Contracts with companies that didn't exist. Invoices backdated to previous quarters. Wire transfers to offshore accounts. Tyler had been cooking the books for 18 months. The email had one line of text. They're planning to delete everything tonight. Download the audit logs now. I looked around my office. Someone inside the company was helping me. But who? And why? I pulled up the admin interface for the audit logging system. Every transaction, every database change, every access point for the last 3 years was recorded there. I began downloading files to an external drive, my hands shaking. This was evidence of massive fraud. The download bar crept forward. 20%, 30%. My office door was closed but not locked. Anyone could walk in. 45%. My screen flickered, then went black. Access denied. Your credentials have been revoked. I stared at the screen in disbelief. They had remotely terminated my access. The download had failed. I looked at the external drive. I had gotten about half the audit logs before being cut off. Heavy footsteps in the hallway. I barely had time to hide the drive in my purse before my office door opened. 2 security guards stood there with Brandon behind them. Dorothy, you need to leave the building immediately. You violated company policy by downloading proprietary data. I was documenting the transfer process. You asked me to expedite it. Brandon's smile was cold. The transfer will be completed by our IT team. You're no longer needed. Please collect your personal items. You have 5 minutes. The security guards watched as I emptied my desk drawers into a cardboard box. Pictures of my kids. A coffee mug Tom had given me. Small mementos from 6 years of my life. The external drive stayed hidden in my purse. They escorted me through the office like a criminal. My former colleagues watched from their cubicles, their faces a mix of sympathy and fear. Lauren looked like she was about to cry. Jake stared at his computer screen, his hands balled into fists. I was walked out the front door into the bright Austin sunshine. The glass doors closed behind me with a final click. I stood in the parking lot, holding a box of my life's work, and realized I was in serious trouble. I spent the rest of that day in a daze. Tom came home early from his job at the engineering firm downtown. He found me sitting at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. The external drive sat in front of me like a live grenade. "What do I do with this?" I asked him. "If I have it, I'm in possession of stolen company data. If I turn it over, Tyler destroys the evidence and gets away with fraud. If I go to the authorities, I look like a disgruntled ex-employee making accusations." Tom sat down across from me. "We'll figure this out. Maybe we should talk to a lawyer." "With what money?" "We have maybe $6,000 in savings and a mortgage that takes most of my salary." The doorbell rang at 4:30 p.m. I opened it to find a courier holding a large envelope. "Sign here, please." The return address was from a law firm downtown. I signed with trembling hands and closed the door. Tom stood behind me as I opened it. Inside was a cease and desist letter on heavy legal stationery. I scanned the contents and felt my stomach drop. TechVantage Solutions was accusing me of theft of trade secrets, unauthorized access to computer systems, and corporate espionage. The letter detailed how I had allegedly stolen proprietary data and threatened to use it against the company. It demanded I return all company property and data within 24 hours or face criminal prosecution. The letter ended with a threat that made my knees weak. If I did not comply, TechVantage would file a civil lawsuit seeking $5 million in damages. $5 million. We didn't have 5,000. This would destroy us. They would take our house, our savings, everything. My kids would watch their mother be branded a criminal. "I can't breathe," I whispered. Tom grabbed the letter and read it himself. His face went pale. "This is insane. You didn't steal anything. You were doing your job. Try proving that in court." I thought about Brandon's cold smile, Tyler's calculating expression. They had resources and lawyers. I had a thumb drive and accusations of fraud that no one would believe. I called 3 lawyers that evening. The first one wanted a $50,000 retainer. The second wanted $40,000. The third listened to my story for 10 minutes and said I needed a specialist in white-collar criminal defense. Those started at $75,000. Tom and I lay in bed that night, unable to sleep. Our whole life was unraveling. I thought about my kids, 8 and 10 years old, sleeping peacefully down the hall. How would I explain to them that their mother might go to prison? Around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed with another encrypted email, the same unknown sender. This message was shorter. "Check your old backup server. Tyler doesn't know it exists." I sat up in bed. The backup server. I had almost forgotten about it. 2 years ago, during a major security upgrade, I had set up a redundant backup system. It was buried in the IT budget as routine maintenance. The executives never paid attention to IT budgets. They just signed off on them. That server had been quietly backing up every transaction, every email, every database change for 24 months, including all of Tyler's fraudulent activity. I grabbed my laptop and connected through a secure VPN. The backup server was still running, hidden in our cloud infrastructure. I accessed it with my old credentials I had set up independently from the main system. The server opened. Files going back 2 years. Everything was there. But as I started browsing, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Someone else was accessing the server right now. I could see their activity in real time. They were deleting files. I started downloading everything I could, as fast as possible. financial records, email archives, database logs. The download meter crept forward agonizingly slowly. Our home internet wasn't built for this kind of data transfer. 30% downloaded. 40%. I watched the other user continue deleting files. They were working systematically, destroying evidence. 50%. 60%. Tom woke up and saw me hunched over the laptop, my face illuminated by the screen glow. "What's happening?" "Someone's trying to delete the evidence. I'm racing them." 70%. 75%. The deletion process was accelerating. They had figured out how to automate it. 78%. The connection dropped. The server shut down. I stared at the screen showing the broken connection. I had 78% of the data, most of the evidence, but not all, and my access had been logged. They now knew I had found the backup server. Tom put his hand on my shoulder. "Is it enough?" "I don't know. Maybe. But now they know I have it. This is going to get worse." I wasn't wrong. I woke the next morning to my phone exploding with notifications. Text messages, emails, missed calls. My hands shook as I opened the first message. It was from Lauren. "Dorothy, what did you do? The entire system is down. Everyone is saying you hacked us." I called her immediately. "What are you talking about?" TechVantage's client system crashed overnight. 300 corporate clients can't access their accounts. Payment processing is frozen. It's all over the news. They're saying you sabotaged everything because you were fired. I turned on the television. The local Austin news was covering it as their top story. Major tech company experiences catastrophic system failure. Business reporter standing outside TechVantage's building. Sources indicate the failure may be linked to a recently terminated employee. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it. "Dorothy? This is Special Agent Hayes with the FBI. We need you to come to our field office downtown. We have some questions about TechVantage solutions." "Am I under arrest?" "Not at this time. But we do need to speak with you today." I hung up and looked at Tom. His face was ashen. The kids were eating breakfast in the kitchen, oblivious. I kissed them both goodbye and told them I had to run an errand. They smiled and went back to their cereal. Tom drove me to the FBI field office. We didn't speak during the drive. What could we say? Our worst nightmare was unfolding in real time. At the field office, Agent Hayes met me in the lobby. He was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He led me to an interview room. Tom had to wait outside. Agent Hayes sat across from me with a tablet and a stack of folders. "Miss Dorothy, TechVantage Solutions has filed a complaint alleging that you engaged in unauthorized access to their computer systems and caused substantial damage. Can you tell me your side of this?" I took a deep breath and told him everything. The sudden firing, the financial fraud I had discovered, the backup server, the race to download evidence before it was deleted. Agent Hayes listened without interrupting, taking notes on his tablet. When I finished, he sat back in his chair. "That's quite a story. Do you have any evidence of this alleged fraud?" "It's on my laptop at home. I downloaded files from the backup server." "That backup server you accessed after being terminated?" "I built that server. I had authorization to access it." "Did you have authorization after your employment ended?" I hesitated. "Technically, no, but I was gathering evidence of criminal activity." Agent Hayes leaned forward. "Here's my problem, Miss Dorothy. From TechVantage's perspective, you're a disgruntled ex-employee who accessed their systems after being fired and caused millions of dollars in damage. From your perspective, You're a whistleblower trying to expose fraud. Both stories can't be true. I felt tears stinging my eyes. I didn't cause the system crash. I don't even know how I could have. I was downloading files, not deleting anything. Let me ask you something. If you wanted to bring down their system, why would you spend time downloading audit logs first? That doesn't make tactical sense. I looked up at him. Exactly. If I was going to sabotage them, I would have just destroyed everything immediately. Why take the time to gather evidence? I saw something shift in Agent Hayes' expression, a flicker of doubt about TechVantage's story. He made a note on his tablet. "Wait here," he said, and left the room. I sat alone for 20 minutes, my mind racing. Through the window in the door, I could see agents moving back and forth. Tom was out there somewhere, probably losing his mind with worry. Agent Hayes returned with another agent, a woman in her 50s. "This is Special Agent Morrison. She specializes in cybercrime. I'm going to have you walk through the technical details with her." For the next hour, I explained the system architecture, the backup server configuration, the security protocols I had implemented. Agent Morrison asked detailed technical questions. She knew what she was talking about. I started to feel a tiny spark of hope. Maybe they would see the truth. Then Agent Hayes' phone rang. He stepped out to take the call. When he came back, his expression had changed. He looked at me with something close to pity. "Miss Dorothy, I need you to stay here. Don't leave this room." "What's wrong?" Agent Morrison pulled up something on her tablet and turned it toward me. "These are emails from your email account, sent last night to an offshore server. They contain malware code. That code was used to crash TechVantage's system." I stared at the screen. The emails showed my name, my email address, my signature, but I had never sent them. "I don't understand. I didn't send these." "The emails originated from your home IP address at 2:37 a.m. That's when I was downloading from the backup server. Someone framed me. They used my access to plant these emails and make it look like I sent them." Agent Hayes shook his head slowly. "Miss Dorothy, you had the means, the motive, and the opportunity. We have evidence linking you to the attack. This looks really bad for you." My voice came out as a whisper. "How bad?" "You're facing federal computer fraud charges. Under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, that carries up to 20 years in prison. We're going to need to seize your computers and any devices you use to access TechVantage's systems." I thought I might vomit. 20 years. My kids would grow up without me. Tom would have to raise them alone. Everything we had built would be destroyed. Agent Morrison added, "We're also obligated to inform you that TechVantage has filed a civil suit against you for $20 million in damages from the system failure." 20 million. The number was so absurd it almost didn't register. We didn't have 20,000. I was released on my own recognizance, but my passport was seized. Tom drove me home in silence. When we pulled into the driveway, there were news vans parked on our street. Reporters rushed toward us with cameras and microphones. Tom shielded me as we ran into the house. Inside, I collapsed on the couch. My phone was ringing constantly. Social media was exploding. Someone had leaked my name to the press. The story was everywhere. Disgruntled employee crashes company system, faces federal charges. My professional reputation was destroyed in a single day. LinkedIn messages poured in, most of them hateful. Former colleagues who I thought were friends posted about how shocked they were, how they always knew something was off about me. The mob mentality was terrifying. Tom's boss called him. The negative publicity was affecting the firm. They were asking Tom to take a leave of absence. We couldn't afford that. We could barely afford our current life. My parents called from Florida, confused and worried. Were the news stories true? Had I really done this? I tried to explain, but how do you explain something so complicated over the phone? They said they believed me, but I heard the doubt in their voices. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat in my home office with the lights off. Everything I had worked for was gone. My career, my reputation, my freedom. I had tried to do the right thing, and it had destroyed me. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a burner phone number, all digits, no name. Dorothy, it's Lauren. Don't respond to this. I'm the one who sent you those encrypted emails. I've been documenting Tyler's fraud for 8 months. I overheard him and Brandon talking about manipulating the numbers for the IPO. I couldn't come forward alone. I'm a single mother. I have no savings. They would destroy me. But when you discovered the irregularities, I saw a chance. I still work there. I can help you. But you have to trust me. I stared at the message. Lauren, my assistant. She had been the mysterious helper all along. Another message came through. Tyler keeps a personal laptop in his office with the real financial records. He's too paranoid to trust the servers after what you built. He thinks no one knows about it. I can get it tonight when he leaves for his business trip to San Francisco. But we have to move fast. He's liquidating assets. I think he's planning to run. I typed back. The FBI seized my laptop. I have no money for a lawyer. Even if you get the laptop, what do we do with it? 3 dots appeared, showing she was typing. Then, I have a plan. Trust me, I'll call you tomorrow. The messages deleted themselves 30 seconds later. I sat in the darkness, trying to decide if I should hope, or if hope would just make the inevitable crash harder. The next morning, Tom's employer officially put him on unpaid leave. The negative publicity had become too much. We sat at the kitchen table and did the math. We had enough savings to cover the mortgage for 2 months, maybe 3 if we were extremely careful. After that, we would lose the house. The kids asked why there were reporters outside. I told them it was a misunderstanding at Mommy's old job, and it would all get cleared up soon. They believed me because they were children, and children believe their parents. I wished I could believe myself. My phone rang from the burner number. I answered immediately. Dorothy, it's Lauren. Can you talk? Yes, the kids are at school. Tom's here. Put me on speaker. He should hear this too. I put the phone on speaker mode and set it on the table. Tom leaned in close. Lauren's voice was shaky but determined. I've been working at TechVantage for 6 years. 4 of those years as your assistant. I watched you build that entire operations department from nothing. I learned everything from you. How to document everything. How to follow proper protocol. How to create audit trails. Lauren, what's happening? Why did you wait so long to tell me you knew about the fraud? Because I was terrified. 8 months ago, I was working late, filing some documents in the executive office suite. Tyler's door was cracked open. I heard him and Brandon talking. They were laughing about how the investors had no idea the revenue numbers were inflated. Tyler said something like, "By the time anyone figures it out, we'll have taken this company public and cashed out. We'll be gone before the house of cards falls." I felt sick. So this was about the IPO. They were inflating numbers to increase the company valuation, planning to sell their shares at the peak and leave before anyone discovered the truth. Lauren continued. I started documenting everything I could access, every conversation I overheard, every document I could photograph. But I'm not an executive. I don't have access to the financial systems like you did. I could see something was wrong, but I couldn't prove it. Then you discovered the irregularities in the Q2 reconciliation. I remember. The numbers didn't match up. Contract values that seemed too high. Revenue booked in the wrong quarters. When you scheduled that meeting with the CEO to discuss your concerns, Tyler panicked. He and Brandon came up with a plan to fire you immediately before the CEO got back from his trip to London. They needed you gone and discredited so that if you tried to say anything, no one would believe you. Tom spoke up. So they framed her for sabotage. Not just sabotage. They're planning to use her as the scapegoat for everything. When the fraud eventually comes out, they'll say Dorothy was the one cooking the books, and she crashed the system to destroy the evidence when she got caught. That's why they planted those emails from her account. I put my head in my hands. It was brilliant in a sick way. Turn the whistleblower into the criminal. Lauren's voice hardened with determination. But I have access to something they don't know about. Tyler keeps a personal laptop in his locked desk drawer. He brings it to work every day and takes it home every night. He doesn't trust the company servers because of the security systems you built. That laptop has everything. The real financial records. The wire transfers to his offshore accounts. The communications with Brandon. Everything we need to prove the fraud. How do you know this? Because I clean the executive offices at night sometimes, when the janitorial staff is short. Tyler doesn't lock his office door when he's working late. I've seen the laptop. Last week, I saw him updating spreadsheets that showed the real revenue numbers versus the fake ones he reports to the board. Tom asked the obvious question. Can you get it? That's why I'm calling. Tyler is flying to San Francisco tonight for meetings. He's leaving the office at 6 p.m. His laptop will be in his desk drawer. I have a master key for the executive suite that I got made 2 years ago when you asked me to organize the office reconfiguration project. Tyler doesn't know I have it. My heart was pounding. Lauren, if you get caught, they'll destroy you too. I know. But I can't watch them do this to you. You believed in me when no one else did. You promoted me. You taught me to stand up for what's right. You said integrity matters more than convenience. Her voice broke slightly. I have a daughter. She's 7. What kind of mother would I be if I taught her to stay silent when she sees injustice? Tears ran down my face. When? Tonight. I'll go in around 8 p.m. The building is mostly empty by then. Just a few engineers working late, but they stay in the development wing. I'll get the laptop, copy everything to an encrypted drive, and put the laptop back. Tyler won't even know it was touched. What about security cameras? I'll wear my normal work badge. If anyone reviews the footage, it'll just show me doing my regular evening rounds. Nothing suspicious. Tom looked at me. This is dangerous. If something goes wrong, Lauren could be arrested too. Lauren answered before I could. It's going to be okay. I've been planning this for 2 weeks. I know Tyler's schedule. I know the security rotations. I know which cameras are real and which are dummies that Brandon installed to save money. I've got this. But Lauren, I said, even if you get the evidence, we still have a problem. The FBI has my computers. I have no money for a lawyer. How do we even use this evidence? I'm working on that part. Just trust me. I'll call you tonight when it's done. She hung up. Tom and I sat in silence, staring at the phone. This could work, he said finally. Or we could all end up in prison. We're already heading to prison, I said. At least this way we fight back. The day dragged by in agonizing slowness. I tried to distract myself by helping the kids with their homework, but my mind was elsewhere. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. News alerts about the TechVantage scandal continued to pop up. The company's stock price was dropping. Clients were threatening to leave. The board had hired a crisis management firm. And through it all, Brandon and Tyler were giving interviews, playing the role of victims. Brandon appeared on the local news looking somber and professional, talking about how they had trusted the wrong person, how they were committed to rebuilding trust with clients. No mention of fraud. No mention of cooked books. Just carefully crafted PR spin. At 7 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Dorothy, it's Angela, the general counsel from TechVantage. My breath caught. Angela, are you calling to threaten me with more lawsuits? No. I'm calling because I need you to know something. Tyler and Brandon have been lying to the board. They've been lying to me. I've suspected something was wrong for months, but every time I try to investigate, I get blocked. Brandon controls access to the financial systems. Tyler controls the data. I'm the company lawyer, but I can't get the information I need to do my job properly. Then why are you calling me now? Because I just found out they're planning to fire me next week. They think I'm asking too many questions. Angela's voice was tight with anger. I've spent my entire career building a reputation for integrity. I will not let them destroy it. If someone is gathering evidence against them, I want to help. How did you know I was gathering evidence? I didn't. But I know you, Dorothy. I've watched you work for 6 years. You're thorough. You document everything. You follow protocol. If they forced you out, you wouldn't go quietly. And you certainly wouldn't sabotage anything. That's not who you are. I felt a rush of gratitude. Angela, they framed me. They planted evidence to make it look like I crashed the system. I know. I've been reviewing the technical forensics. I'm not an IT expert, but even I can see the holes in their story. The malware supposedly came from your home IP address, but the packet routing doesn't match. Someone with access to the internal network created those fake emails and backdated them. Can you prove that? Not alone. But if someone were to obtain Tyler's personal records, the ones he keeps separate from the company systems, I could present that evidence to the board in my capacity as general counsel. I could trigger a full investigation. My pulse was racing. Lauren is getting that laptop tonight. Angela was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Tell her to call me when she has it. I'll meet her." As the company's lawyer, I have a duty to investigate credible allegations of fraud. If I'm presented with evidence, I'm legally obligated to act on it. After I hung up, I told Tom what Angela had said. He shook his head in amazement. You've got a whole secret team working on this. Not by choice. But maybe that's how these things work. Maybe fighting corruption requires lots of people taking small risks, and those small risks add up to something bigger. At 8:30 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from the burner number. I'm inside, heading to Tyler's office now. I showed Tom. We sat together on the couch, staring at the phone, waiting. The seconds crawled by. 8:35, 8:40, 8:45. The phone rang. I grabbed it. Lauren? But it wasn't Lauren's voice. It was Angela's, and she sounded shaken. Dorothy, we have a problem. Brandon is here. He just walked into the building. He saw Lauren in Tyler's office. My blood turned to ice. What? I'm here too. I came to back her up, just in case. I'm hiding in my office. I can hear them arguing in the hallway. Is Lauren okay? I don't know. Brandon is threatening to call the police. He's saying Lauren broke in, that she's stealing company property. Tom grabbed the phone from me. This is Tom, Dorothy's husband. What's happening right now? Angela's voice was tight. Brandon just grabbed Lauren's arm. She dropped something. I think it's Tyler's laptop. Brandon is picking it up. He knows what she was trying to do. He's threatening to have her arrested for corporate espionage. Dorothy, Lauren is terrified. She's a single mother. She can't go to jail. My mind raced. Then a thought crystallized. The FBI. Agent Hayes. Tom looked at me. What? I grabbed my phone and found Agent Hayes's card in my purse. I dialed his number. It rang 4 times. 5, 6. Then he answered. Special Agent Hayes. This is Dorothy, the woman from the Tech Vantage case. I need you to get to their office right now. There are people in danger and evidence of the fraud I told you about. Miss Dorothy, I can't just show up somewhere based on an accusation. I'm not accusing. I'm telling you that right now, at Tech Vantage's office in downtown Austin, there is a witness being threatened by the COO, and there is physical evidence of financial fraud on a laptop. If you don't get there in the next 10 minutes, that evidence will be destroyed and that witness might be hurt. How do you know this is happening right now? Because I'm on the phone with someone who's there. Please, I'm begging you. Just send someone to check it out. If I'm wrong, you can add it to the charges against me. But if I'm right, you'll catch them red-handed. Agent Hayes was quiet for a moment. Then I heard him moving, giving orders to someone in the background. We're 8 minutes away. Tell your person to stay out of sight and stay safe. I relayed this to Angela. She whispered, I'm calling 911 too. If the FBI doesn't get here fast enough, at least the police will. The next 10 minutes were the longest of my life. Tom held my hand so tightly it hurt. We sat frozen, listening to Angela's whispered updates through the phone. Brandon was in Tyler's office. He was doing something with the laptop. Lauren was standing in the hallway, crying, saying she was just cleaning the offices. Brandon wasn't buying it. Then Angela said, I hear sirens. 30 seconds later, she said, FBI agents just came through the front door. 3 of them. Brandon heard them coming. He's trying to hide the laptop. Then a new voice came through the phone. This is Special Agent Hayes. Who am I speaking with? Angela identified herself as General Counsel. I could hear the authority snap back into her voice. She explained that she had been conducting an investigation into potential financial irregularities and had come to the office to secure evidence. She had witnessed the COO threatening an employee who was assisting with the investigation. Agent Hayes asked her to unlock Tyler's office. Through the phone, I heard doors opening. Hayes's voice saying, Sir, step away from the desk. Put down the laptop. Brandon's voice, angry and defensive. This is private property. You can't just come in here. Hayes, calm and professional. We received a credible tip about evidence tampering and witness intimidation. The laptop, please. A scuffle. Brandon trying to resist. Then another voice, probably another agent. Sir, don't make this harder. Put it down now. A thud. The laptop being set on a desk. Hayes speaking into his radio, calling for additional units and a forensic tech team. Angela whispered into her phone. Dorothy, they have the laptop. Brandon is being detained. Lauren is okay. She's shaking, but she's okay. I started crying. Tom pulled me close. It wasn't over, but for the first time in days, I felt like maybe, just maybe, we had a chance. Agent Hayes kept everyone at the Tech Vantage office for the next 3 hours. A forensic team arrived with specialized equipment. They imaged Tyler's laptop on site, creating an exact digital copy of everything on the drive. Brandon was taken to the FBI field office for questioning. Lauren gave a formal statement. Angela provided her documentation as general counsel. I wasn't there, but Angela kept me updated via text through the night. At 11:15 p.m., she texted, "They found everything. Spreadsheets showing real versus reported revenue. Offshore account details. Communications about the fraud. It's all here." At midnight, Tyler just landed in San Francisco. FBI agents there are taking him into custody at the airport. At 1 a.m., Brandon is trying to claim he didn't know about the fraud. Says it was all Tyler. Agents aren't buying it. They found emails between them. I couldn't sleep. Tom finally dozed off on the couch around 2 a.m., exhausted from the stress. I sat in the kitchen, drinking cold coffee and staring at my phone. At 3:30 a.m., Agent Hayes called me directly. "Miss Dorothy, this is Agent Hayes. I owe you an apology. The forensic analysis of Tyler's laptop confirms everything you told us. The revenue fraud, the fake contracts, all of it. We also found evidence that Brandon used his admin access to plant the malware that crashed the system and created those fake emails from your account." I closed my eyes, relief washing over me like a wave. "So I'm cleared? All charges against you are being dropped. We'll issue a formal statement in the morning. I'm sorry we didn't believe you sooner. These cases are complicated, and sometimes the obvious answer isn't the right one. What happens now? Tyler and Brandon are both in custody. They'll face multiple charges: wire fraud, securities fraud, conspiracy, computer crimes, and obstruction of justice. The Securities and Exchange Commission is opening an investigation. TechVantage's board has been notified. What about Lauren? And Angela? Lauren's being treated as a witness and a whistleblower. She'll be protected under federal whistleblower statutes. Angela is cooperating fully with the investigation. Neither of them will face charges. After I hung up, I woke Tom and told him. He hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "We're going to be okay," he whispered. "You did it." But I knew it wasn't just me. It was Lauren's courage, Angela's integrity, even Agent Hayes' willingness to respond when I called. It was all of us, together. The next morning, the news broke nationally. Major financial fraud uncovered at Austin Tech Company. CEO and COO arrested. The narrative had completely flipped. I went from villain to victim to whistleblower in less than 24 hours. My phone exploded with messages, but this time they were different. Former colleagues apologizing for doubting me, LinkedIn messages praising my courage, job offers from companies who valued integrity. The vindication felt good, but it was also surreal. Just days ago, these same people had called me a criminal. 3 days later, TechVantage's board of directors reached out through their lawyers. They wanted to meet. Tom came with me to the meeting, which was held at a neutral location, a conference room at a downtown hotel. The board chair, a woman named Patricia, who I had met maybe twice in 6 years, looked genuinely remorseful. "Dorothy, on behalf of the entire board, I want to apologize. We failed in our oversight duties. We should have caught this fraud much earlier. We certainly should not have allowed Tyler and Brandon to terminate and scapegoat you." I sat quietly, letting her continue. "We've spent the last 72 hours with forensic accountants and our legal team. The damage is extensive. Client trust is shattered. Our stock price has dropped 40%. We're facing multiple lawsuits. The SEC investigation could take years. We need to rebuild this company from the ground up." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're the only person who knows how everything actually works. You built the operations infrastructure. You created the systems that kept this company running. We need you to come back." I laughed, actually laughed. "You want me to come back? After everything that happened?" Patricia slid a folder across the table. "As Chief Operating Officer. Full executive authority. Salary of $350,000 plus equity and bonuses. You would report directly to the board, not to any other executive. You would have full authority to rebuild the operations department and implement whatever controls and safeguards you believe are necessary." I opened the folder. The contract was detailed and generous. More money than I had ever imagined making. But more importantly, it gave me real power to fix what was broken. "What about Lauren?" I asked. Patricia smiled slightly. "Lauren would be promoted to your former position as Senior Operations Manager. Angela is staying on as General Counsel, but with expanded authority. We're cleaning house completely. Every executive who was complicit or willfully blind is being removed." Tom squeezed my hand under the table. The decision was mine. "I have conditions," I said. "Name them." "Full transparency to the board on all financial matters. No more secrets. Regular audits by independent firms. A whistleblower protection program with real teeth. And most importantly, this company admits publicly what happened. No spinning it, no minimizing it. We tell the truth." Patricia looked at the other board members. They all nodded, agreed. I took a deep breath. Then I accept. The next 6 months were a whirlwind. I returned to TechVantage, not as the person being escorted out with a box of belongings, but as the COO walking in through the front door with my head held high. The remaining employees, the ones who had stuck around through the scandal, gave me a standing ovation on my first day back. Lauren thrived in her new role. She was brilliant and thorough, just as I had always known she could be. We rebuilt the operations team with people who valued integrity over shortcuts. We implemented systems to prevent fraud. We created a culture where people felt safe speaking up about problems. Angela became one of my closest allies. Together, we rewrote company policies to protect employees and ensure transparency. The board, humbled by how badly they had failed, actually listened to us. Tyler and Brandon both pled guilty to multiple felony charges. Tyler got 12 years in federal prison. Brandon got 9. The sentences sent a message: corporate fraud has consequences. TechVantage slowly rebuilt its reputation. Some clients left, but others stayed, impressed by how honestly we had addressed the crisis. New clients came because they wanted to work with a company that had proven it would do the right thing, even when it was hard. Through it all, I thought about that moment in the HR office when Jessica had slid that script across the desk. I thought about picking up that pen and adding one line. Such a small action, such enormous consequences. 1 year after the day I was fired, TechVantage held its annual company meeting. I stood at the front of the conference room, looking out at 150 employees. Some were familiar faces who had survived the scandal. Many were new people we had hired to fill the gaps left by those who had departed. "I want to tell you something," I began. A year ago, I sat in an HR office and was told to read a script to my team. The script was corporate speak about restructuring and strategic direction. It was designed to make my firing sound routine and impersonal, but I added one line about transferring access codes and following proper protocol. The room was silent, everyone listening. That one line changed everything. Not because it was dramatic or clever, but because it was true. I had built systems with safeguards. I had documented everything. I had followed proper procedures, even when it would have been easier to cut corners. And when the moment came, those boring administrative details became the foundation for fighting back. I looked at Lauren, sitting in the front row with her daughter. I looked at Angela, standing near the back with her legal team. I looked at employees I had hired over the past year, people who had chosen to join a company with a tarnished reputation because they believed in what we were building. This company failed spectacularly, I continued. We let corruption take root. We let fear silence people who saw problems. We let executives prioritize short-term gains over long-term integrity. And we paid a terrible price for those failures. Some people shifted uncomfortably. It wasn't easy hearing the truth stated so bluntly. But we also did something important. We didn't cover it up. We didn't minimize it. We told the truth, even though the truth was ugly and expensive and embarrassing. We fired everyone who was complicit. We implemented new controls. We created protections for whistleblowers. We chose to rebuild the right way, even though it was harder. I paused, gathering my thoughts. The lesson I've learned from all of this is that integrity isn't glamorous. It's not exciting. It's doing your documentation thoroughly, even when you're tired. It's following proper procedures even when they seem bureaucratic. It's speaking up about problems even when it's terrifying. It's boring and hard and sometimes thankless work. But boring integrity is what protects you when everything goes wrong. My obsessive documentation became evidence. My insistence on proper protocols created legal cover. My habit of building audit trails became the foundation for catching fraud. The things that seemed overly cautious and unnecessarily detailed turned out to be exactly what we needed. I smiled at the group. So my message to all of you is this: do the boring work. Document everything. Follow proper procedures. Build systems with safeguards. Create audit trails. Be thorough even when it seems excessive, because someday, somewhere, those habits might be the difference between justice and injustice. The room erupted in applause. It wasn't the polite golf clap of corporate meetings. It was genuine appreciation from people who understood what we had all survived together. After the meeting, Lauren caught up with me in the hallway. Her daughter, Emma, was with her. Emma looked up at me with wide eyes. "Miss Dorothy, my mom says you're a hero." I knelt down to Emma's level. "Your mom is the real hero, sweetie. She was brave when it was dangerous to be brave. That's what real courage looks like." Lauren's eyes filled with tears. "I couldn't have done it without you believing in me." "We believed in each other," I said. "That's how this works. No one fights corruption alone." That evening, I drove home to Tom and the kids. Our house was no longer under threat of foreclosure. My legal fees had been paid by TechVantage as part of the settlement. The FBI had returned my computers. My name had been cleared completely. Tom's employer had apologized and given him his job back with a raise. But more important than any of that, I could look at myself in the mirror again. I had fought back against injustice and won. Not alone, and not without help, but I had won. My daughter asked me at dinner, "Mom, why were all those people so mean to you last year?" I thought about how to explain it. Sometimes people believe lies because lies are easier than the truth, but the truth always matters more, even when it's hard. "Did you tell the truth?" I did, and I had friends who helped me prove it. My son, practical as always, asked, "Are you going to get fired again?" I laughed. "I hope not. But if I do, I'll make sure I document everything properly." Tom raised his glass of water in a mock toast. To boring documentation and proper procedures. I clinked my glass against his. To the truth, even when it's inconvenient. 6 months later, TechVantage settled with all its clients and regulators. The company survived, smaller but healthier. The board implemented every reform I had recommended. We became known in the industry not for the scandal, but for how we had responded to it. I received speaking invitations from business schools and ethics conferences. People wanted to know how to build ethical companies, how to create cultures where whistleblowers were protected, how to implement controls that actually worked. My answer was always the same. Make integrity boring. Make it routine. Make it so embedded in your daily operations that doing the right thing becomes the path of least resistance. Create systems where ethical behavior is easier than unethical behavior. Document everything so thoroughly that fraud becomes almost impossible to hide. It wasn't a sexy message. It didn't promise quick fixes or revolutionary changes. But it was true, and truth had served me well. On the anniversary of the day I had added that line to my firing script, I treated Lauren and Angela to dinner at a nice restaurant downtown. We ordered wine and actually relaxed for the first time in over a year. Angela raised her glass. To Dorothy, for being stubborn enough to document everything. Lauren added, to Angela, for being brave enough to use that documentation. I raised my own glass. To all of us, for refusing to stay silent. We clinked glasses. 3 women who had stood up against corruption and won. 3 women who had learned that you don't need to be powerful to fight injustice. You just need to be thorough, brave, and willing to trust each other. As I drove home that night, I thought about the people watching this story unfold. Maybe someone out there was facing a similar situation. Maybe someone was being pressured to stay quiet about wrongdoing. Maybe someone was wondering if fighting back was worth it. My message to them would be simple. Document everything. Follow proper procedures. Build alliances with people who share your values. And when the moment comes, have the courage to add that one line, to speak that one truth, to take that one stand, because sometimes one line is enough to change everything. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to stand up against something wrong at work or in your life? What did you do? How did you find the courage? Or maybe you're facing something now and wondering if you should speak up. I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to the channel for more stories about ordinary people facing extraordinary challenges and finding the strength to fight back. Your support helps us keep telling these important stories. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for believing that truth matters and that ordinary people can make a difference. And remember, you're stronger than you think, especially when you're not fighting alone. Until next time, take care of each other, stand up for what's right, and never underestimate the power of proper documentation.